Alright, what's going on YouTube? ACCM versus CL, second round of Hidden Cup 4 qualifiers over here. ACCM seed number 1 in the tournament, CL seed number 32, a very aggressive Chinese player versus ACCM, who is a very good balanced overall player. As you see, the draft is on the screen right now, and the main reason behind that is because the AOE2CM drafting site that is used to draft civilizations was down during the draft actually occurred. So there was a graphical draft until like half of it, but then the website just pretty much went haywire. And at the end of the day, they just decided to go for the text draft. So ACCM will be picking Aztecs, Mongols, Vikings, Indians, Persians, Saracens, and Portuguese. I just copy pasted this from what they posted. So typos like Saracen and Tartars, it's not my fault. I just copy pasted the one that Mr. Yo posted about the draft. Mayans, Franks, Magyars, Berbers, Malians, Tatars, and Khmer are the civs for CL, and snipes will be ACCM going Mayans and CL going for Vikings. Home maps. Oh, I haven't posted the home maps over here. Whoops. I wanted to do that as well, but that requires me to adjust this one a little bit. So here are the civilizations. And what we're going to do is post the home maps like that. So here are the home maps. ACCM picks Bay and Island and Band Hideout. And on the other side, we have CL picking Gold Rush and Slope. So what I'm expecting for this series is that normally if I'd seed number 1 versus seed number 32, the best I would give to a seed number 32 is 3-1. However, CL is a very aggressive, sometimes out-of-the-box type of a player, so it could be tough for ACCM in certain moments. Still, I believe that ACCM is a balanced enough player to be able to rebound into that one nicely, so I'm actually going for 3-1 for ACCM, but I wouldn't be surprised to see CL being very competitive in this series. CL played against Kasva in the previous round. That was a very close series, whereas ACCM played against the Bloodless, and there were some surprises in that series as well. In particular, there was one game where ACCM actually had a tough time against the Bloodless. So CL had a much harder time getting into the second round than ACCM did. We'll see what CL can do in this one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but CL actually played with Tim, right? Did he play with Tim in 2v2 World Cup? I think I'll have to check out, but CL played in 2v2 World Cup, indeed, as a part of China B, I believe. That was one of the bigger upsets of 2v2 World Cup. That instead of Vivi and Jibatong, I believe, who were assumed to be the second best Chinese team behind Mr. Yo and Lix in 2v2 World Cup, there was a pre-qualifier, and because the rules said that in 2v2 World Cup, one nation can only send 2 teams at maximum, they had to play sort of a pre-qualifier to determine which of the 2 teams from China will be representing the country in 2v2 World Cup in 2020. And one of the bigger upsets was Team and CL beating Vivian Chibatong against the odds. That actually was a series that went into 5 games, and the final game was Nomad, I believe, and Tim and CL defeated Vivian Chibatong over there. I think the main problem that CL is facing is that the map pool isn't something that he is really suitable with. So CL is the type of person that is feeling very confident on maps like Nomad, for example, and I think his best maps are not in the map pool. So CL is being heavily nerfed by just the actual map pack in this tournament. Obviously, these are the rules of the tournament, and they apply to everybody, so it's not like this is anything special, but as I said, I feel like if there were a couple of other maps as well, CL would probably be a higher seeded player. Well, not higher than ACCM, but he wouldn't probably be 32, I would say. Also, CL is very heavily focused towards team games, whereas ACCM is also himself much more of a 1v1 player. ACCM is very good in team games, but I feel like ACCM now is an outstanding 1v1 player, whereas CL is still more on the team game side of the things. He's very active in Chinese team games though, so he's got a lot of experience with that. We'll see what he can do in 1v1. Mechanically, I think ACCM is a little bit more advanced than CL, but CL's micro is also pretty decent, so I don't think that this is gonna go down to actual mechanical skills and execution. It's probably gonna go down more like on decision making and being able to exploit certain things that the map gives you, So this could be a close series, I believe. Anyways, we'll have an interesting Arabia start over here. ACCM will be playing Saracens in blue, and CL will be playing Berbers, which raises multiple questions because, as I said, CL's only real water map or water civilization was Berbers. So without that, as we can jump into the game over here with Capture Age, so without that, it seems like CL will probably go for a landing. As I welcome you to game number 1, Arabia. We'll have ACCM playing as Saracens in blue. On the other side of the map, we'll have CL playing as red Berbers. So Saracens versus Berbers, two of the better camel civilizations in this game. As we are going to have a pretty decent starting base for ACCM. His gold is at the back, which is nice. He's got a safe stone, which is always important against these Chinese players because CL is also one of the more aggressive Chinese players that isn't shying away from just pushing you up with towers. So you always have to be prepared of being tower rushed against players like CL, players like Lix. But also, CL is having sort of an old school-ish Chinese playstyle, so oftentimes after a tower rush, or even without the tower rush, he just plays a lot of stone walls. So I would say that CL, if I had to approximate this, he's sort of a mixture of Tim and Lix as a player in terms of playstyle. In fact, in the qualifiers, we have seen him that he is not shying away from stonewalling half of his base either, so that's something that is going to be worth pointing out. Anyways, CL's base, he also back gold. The stone mine isn't really great for him, but the berries are alright, the wood lines are workable. Not a perfect map for him, but I feel like the gold being safe is what matters. So the thing is that both civilizations do carry some flexibility with them. Both can play scouts and the knights camels. Eventually that's going to turn into a camel war. If this is cavalry warfare, it has to be a camel war from the players. Whereas on the other side, for ACCM, archers are a possibility as well. The Saracen bonus against buildings was actually nerfed, but it's still somewhat strong. Berbers can also go for an archer play, though. If they do, then it's going to be an archer into camel archer play. So technically, these two civilizations have very, very similar playstyle over here. I like Berbers a little more, mainly because one thing that Saracens do not have is great cavalier. In fact, they don't have cavalier at all. And that could be something that Saracens could struggle against if they fail to transition to camels in time. So they could get overrun by early Imperial Age cheap Berber Cavalier if they don't have the time to transition into heavy camels. Anyways, we are gonna have, as I said, CL playing with the walls on the right side first, and ACCM will be pushing up the walls over here. So I would assume that ACCM will wall just like this. And I think he has to wall it off over here just to make sure that he doesn't have a sneaky tower behind his wood line, and he's gonna have that stone. Oftentimes these Chinese players love to sneak a tower up on you. It's just one villager, sneak a tower over here, and that denies that wood line. So it's not a full-on commitment to a tower rush, just a sneaky tower to deny a certain specific resource deposit. Anyways, for now CL will be pushing in the deer, and I think the same is going to apply for ACCM, so it's a relatively passive Dark Age for both players in this one, and we will have a free on wood for ACCM and free on wood for CL. So CL is thinking about something like potentially men-at-arms, potentially could be men-at-arms towers, to be honest, could be men-at-arms archers, straight archers. There are a lot of possibilities for him, but it seems like he's not going to play scouts. Meanwhile, ACCM, I think he will try playing with scouts, as he's sending a lot of villagers to the hunt though, so this tries to be a fast feudal scouts play, I believe, over here for him, because he's already consuming all that hunt really fast. So he may try to squeeze in something like a 20 pop scouts build over here, and then probably use the market pretty heavily with Saracens. One thing that you get with Saracens is that you have a big market that's very cheap, so you can use that as part of your wall. Like, I think you can actually pretty much block this crossing over here with the market. Still, it looks like ACCM isn't really bothering walling himself, whereas CL is going to start making walls at the back of his base, interestingly. That's a very, very interesting decision, because I would have thought that you want to prioritize the front of your base instead of, you know, going for the back of your base. Because if you just wall off the back of your base, what are you getting from this one in the immediate future? You don't get anything from this. Whereas if you would start walling on the front, your opponent would need to go all the way around to hit you at the back. So I'm not sure why he's walling up the back of the base. It's going to be useful. I'm not saying it's not useful. I'm just saying that I'm not sure why he's prioritizing that over walling the front of his base. ACCM eats a hit on his scout over here, and it seems like we're gonna have a 20 pop scouts build after all for CL, or at least it's a little too early barracks for scouts, but men-at-arms would be way too ambitious with 20 pop and Berbers, even with the deer push. But we'll see if that is the plan for him. I think this is just an early barracks simply over here from CL. In the meanwhile, on the other side, we'll have a scouts play as well. But in this case, I like Berbers a little more, because just by standard, the Berber economy is much, much better than the Saracen economy. And obviously, the Saracens can try compensating that with the market use. But I feel like CL with the Berber economy, it's not that much better, but the villagers walking a little faster actually helps a little bit when it comes to dropping off resources, so it's a nice little eco bonus. And also it's worth noting that CL has pushed in all of the deer that he has had, whereas ACCM didn't even touch his own deer. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't send out a couple of villagers to get that hunt, but it's not going to be right away. And right now, it looks like the scouts will be poking and probing each other. The health is lower for CL, but if ACCM runs into the TC fire, things could change. And indeed, here comes the Sable. And CL will more or less be fully walled. Against scouts, though, you want to make sure that, yeah, you actually wall close to the TC. Because if you just wall far out to the TC, even if the units that would pass are within the range of the town center, they might just run past it because they're scouts. So you really want to wall close here. Ideally, you want to actually drop a gate some round over here just to make sure that scouts don't run past the TC when you're not noticing them. Because the thing is that if you're walling using your TC, then you need to make sure that you jump into the TC once you see the opponent arriving. If you don't do that, you're just going to let a bunch of units inside your base. So that's a more dangerous way of walling. Anyways, here are the Watchers walking out to the hunt. CL will see them, so I would think that the first scouts that he has are coming this way. And same thing will happen for ACCM. He knows exactly that CL is looking for his hunting Villagers. It's 2-on-1 right now over here. Spearman comes out as well, and it is just passing the scouts over here. Now CL, oh, that was sloppy from him, eating an enormous Spearman hit on those scouts. In the meanwhile, ACCM will be walled on the right side of his base. He's going to play semi-walled and defensive spearman, whereas I think his opponent will just be playing with a couple of scouts. And now the question is, if CL will just camp behind his walls, because what he could do is just keep on the pressure on ACCM with these couple of scouts over here, and force ACCM to defend and boom behind this one. ACCM could do something similar as well, but obviously, because he's playing a lot more open, he probably has to commit a little more to defending his own base. CL now commits to this one, but does not take a single villager kill, in fact loses one scout and a lot of HP in the process. So this was a really bad fight over there for CL, and now ACCM has the HP advantage for the scouts. And remember that the thing is that you might want to try booming up to Castle Age here if you're CL, but ACCM is going to be able to use the market much better. And the thing is that you're just going to sell your stone here at Saracens. It's easier to sell your stone, go up to Castle Age early, and then buy the stone when you need it in Castle for TCs, rather than just waiting out with 200 stone in the bank. So Saracens will, like 90% guaranteed, sell their stone. In this one, CL brings in a Spearman, but look at the upgrades. They're actually much worse over here for CL, just getting double bit axe, no horse color, and oh, that's a lot of farms without horse color, my man. That's a lot of farms. He actually had a much better starting eco from the hunt, but now it's a disaster for CL. Because, believe it or not, that many farms that horse color is going to hurt your eco in like early to mid castlage quite heavily. Nice micro over there from ACCM. He's running around until the wolf is able to damage the spearman, and he's also using his scouts over here. Nice micro from ACCM right now. And the more I look at it, the more I'm seeing that ACCM is taking over in terms of controlling this game, because CL wasn't able to kill a single villager. Villager counts are still that even, however, ACCM's eco is much more developed, and as I said, Saracens don't have an amazing eco compared to Berbers, but they don't even have a huge eco deficit, and when you have a massive difference, like all these farms being with horse color versus all these farms being without horse color, that actually means that the Saracen player here actually has the better eco, most likely. In fact, with the market use, he is actually getting close to clicking up to Castle Age here really fast. So, ACCM after wheelbarrow, I think he is planning to go up. He will probably just sell 100 wood and go up right away. Hello, ACCM? Okay, now he's going to go up. That's actually crazy market use over there, but it is what it is, right? It is Saracens, and as you see, his opponent did everything right other than, you know, losing the scouts, but in terms of eco management, Sia was pretty much alright. And the only thing I would criticize is that he didn't have Horseclaw on these farms, which I think he could have afforded when he reached Feudal Age. But that being said, he's going to fall behind quite a bit, to be honest, over here, and that is associated with the fact that Saracens' market use can be crazy and use. It's a combination of two things here. The fact that you can sell your stone on a good price is huge. The fact that you can balance out your eco with a good market price is actually very, very useful. And lastly, the fact that the market is cheaper is also extremely important. So the thing is that obviously the opponent could also use the market to balance out the eco. The difference is that this market for CL is much more expensive. So while ACCM can afford an early market to balance out his eco, CL cannot really do that. So if CL goes for an early market, he can't afford a blacksmith or he can't afford a range, for example. So that's the difference between the two players, and now CL is planning to transition into archers here, but that's basically the worst decision that he could possibly make over here, because that delays his castle age time over here as he was using up the gold that he has had in the bank. And if you take a look at this, that's 2 minutes castle age difference between the two players. That's brutal. And even though Saracens don't have anything going for them in Imperial in terms of heavy cavalry, so no cavalier, no paladin, their knights in castle age are actually still pretty decent. So you can open a couple of knights here with ACCM, and you can actually start dropping a siege workshop and pushing with knights and mangonels, especially because your opponent transitioned to archers or crossbows. You can definitely do that, and ACCM will be coming in with camels. Now, that's actually a little bit of a disappointment here. He does see the ranges, so he should know that the opponent is going to make an archer transition. He's making camels because he knows that his opponent is Berbers, and in a fight where both civilizations have camel available, and both players went for scouts, it is likely that you're going to see camel fights, because if you go knights with one player, then the opponent is going to go camels and beat you with it, so usually open camels. However, seeing that archer range, I would say that it would be much better if he opens knights. Now, he could still do that, but at the end of the day, his camels will pretty much be useless over here, as the archers will just be able to melt them relatively easily. A second TC and a monastery is coming in here over here, so it seems like ACCM is unprepared for the archer switch, because the monastery is also a clear sign that he believes that his opponent wants to go for knights and camels. Now, if these archers loop all the way around, this could really catch ACCM off guard, because as I said, I don't think he's prepared for the archer transition. Maybe he thinks that this archer range is just a bait, and there's a second stable behind, hidden, and there will be camels coming out. But at the end of the day, he's going to see the archers, so now he knows that, boy, I have to go for knights and not camels. And you see, CL is not even making a single camel here, and now ACCM, I believe, is going to start mixing in knights here once the camels do finish. Those crossbows might actually be able to take a couple of villagers down over here, as especially ACCM is moving out for this gold mine over here, and that could be a disaster for him. Camels trying to take down the barracks, but now it is going to be crossbows out, and ACCM runs directly into the crossbows. As I said, I feel like he was unprepared for a crossbow switch here. That is -4 villagers from our Vietnamese player, and now he has to rush up a siege workshop back at home. I am like 80% sure that he was unprepared for a crossbow switch, and now he's getting knights out. If he was sure about the crossbow switch, he would have gone knights immediately. He went for camels because I think he thought that this archer range is only a bait, and you're going to see a second stable behind from the Berbers and knights and camels. And he thought, okay, I'm just getting baited here, I will continue with my plan to go for camels because my opponent is also going for knights and camels. But now he's in trouble because these camels are pretty much useless right now. Like, they're not good against archers by any means, especially because ACCM doesn't even have a single armor upgrade on them. They do have some extra HP because they're Saracen camels, but still, that doesn't change the fact that they are just melting to archers, and it's going to take some time until ACCM is able to mass knights here. And the thing is that time is not something that ACCM necessarily has, because the late game composition of Berbers is something I really like over the late game composition of Saracens. Like, you could see a switch into Arbalest from ACCM in the long run. The problem that he's facing is that right now he's getting decent amounts of knights on the field, and those knights will be obsolete once we reach Imperial. So the longer this game drags, the more obsolete ACCM's army is going to be over here, as he loses another Voyager and another one over here. Still, CL is just 2 Voyagers ahead, and ACCM does have both, so something that CL does not, but this is actually a pretty rough start for ACCM if you just look at the Voyager KD. 6 Voyagers lost and 0 killed from CL, and lose the Scorpion as well. And as I said, I feel like he's having a little bit of trouble dealing with this crossbow switch over here. We'll try to counterattack with the camos, but this will be spotted by CL. And I think this is a fight ACM will want to take. If you're CL, you will probably just camp this position and try to take down as many camos as you can. But in the meanwhile, these crossbows, it seems like CL is trying to just assemble his army over here. And that would be a disaster for ACCM. He needs to disengage this, and indeed he will. CL is still missing ballistics right now for himself. He instead is playing on free TCs. So we might see a switch back into knights eventually, once we reach Imperial. Because one of the things that CL is going to have trouble with is that he doesn't have access to Arbalest. So as much as it is bad for ACCM to commit to a lot of knights that will not have an upgrade to Cavalier in Imperial, the same thing applies to Berbers here. Committing to a lot of crossbows will mean that you have an upset army in Imperial, so soon you will have to transition to something else if you are CL, which I think ideally is Camel Archers, if you are Berbers. But obviously that's going to take quite a lot of time. ACCM is actually pretty heavy on stone, so I wonder if he wants to make a defensive castle somewhere around here to protect that gold mine in the front of his base. Now Mangonels are chasing down this army over here. Still no ballistics for CL, who's just getting the university up. But still, this army is pretty much useless against what CL has right now. So, this scout is history, and ACCM is trying to cut off the escape path of these crossbows here, trying to corner them until the Mangonels catch up. Here comes the eco upgrades from our Berber player. And as I said, eventually, CL is going to have to transition to something as well away from the crossbows. But free TCs for both players, Voyager counts are relatively even, so are the eco upgrades. So I think this game has the potential to go very, very long. And now this is the fight that you are taking if you are CL. I would think that you're focusing on the knights here first, although it's a tricky decision, because it's harder to kill the knights and they'll deal a lot more damage. So it may actually be better to kill a lot of camels here with this army rather than focusing down the knights. And indeed, I think that's the plan for CL. That was actually pretty big cleanup, or was it? I think this is ending up to be an okay trade for CL, believe it or not. So it wasn't ideal, especially losing all those crossbows, but remember that those camels will be valuable for ACCM in the long run. However, the crossbows, as I said, will be pretty much going obsolete, and he might actually get a couple of conversions here on the knights, and the monk could also get picked off by the crossbows. That is actually pretty nice over there for CL. More knights are coming, but as I said, I feel like at this point, what ACCM is going to struggle with a little bit is that he's committing more and more to knights, and those knights will be upset in Imperial, and it seems like this game might actually go into Imp. What is going to be the ideal late game composition for the Berbers here? I would think that Cavalier Camel Archer seems like something that is reasonable. You need a composition of army, because the thing is that if you just go for heavy cav, Saracens have one of the best heavy camos in the game, so that's not going to be sufficient. I'm not sure if you want to open that gate over there, but we got a couple of knights out now for CL. Other than that, it's tough to say, because the thing is that there could be a switch back into Arbalest from ACCM. I think ACCM will have to switch into Arbalest in the long run. It is going to be either full camos in Imperial from ACCM or Arbalests. And against Arbalest, what you would do is Cavalier and Camel Archer to deal with the camos. That's my perspective on that. Anyways, Vulture counts are still even. ACCM is assembling a little bit of an army over here. CL, however, is much closer to Imp. So, in fact, I think CL will just balance out his eco, buys a bit of a stone for himself, and goes for what is going to be an ambitious castle over here against ACCM's army. And indeed, he taps out. He needs to delete that castle, though. CL, if he doesn't delete that castle and it goes down, he loses all the resources. And now he opens up the gate to save the crossbows. Might have been a bad decision. It would have been better to just lose 3 crossbows over here, because now you have knights inside your eco. And as I said, this army for ACCM doesn't translate into anything in Imperial. So he has to commit to Castle Age here, and he will commit to Castle Age. That's a disaster for CL because he was about to click into Imperial, and the Villager now opens the gate once again. Oh man, that hurts so much for CL. He was about to click into Imperial and start going for Camel Archers, his ideal unit composition, and this will be cleaned up, but CL is gonna be down by 20 Villagers because of this. That being said, this is still not an insurmountable lead, but as you see, he now has to queue up a bunch of camels. That's going to delay his Imperial Age, and now ACCM is going to castle drop him over here. CL getting his own castle up. I think ACCM doesn't know about that, so CL should have no trouble getting that one up. But still, look at that. CL at some point was close to kicking up to Imperial. Now he's at 250 food. He could still cancel a couple of camels over here, but from a position where he was almost ready to go into Imperial and go for Camel Archers, now he's in a position where he's behind by 20 Villagers. Eventually he's going to clean this army up, so this might not be the end of the day or the end of the world for ACCM, but as I said, from a position where I think that he was almost commanding the game, or at least he was in a very, very good position to start controlling the game, he actually has jumped into a position where it's now full disaster for him. And he's got a castle in his face, and as I said, that castle that he tried to build was extremely ambitious, and in fact, he could have just sacrificed those Villagers and crossbows over there, saying, okay, whatever, I'm not going to open that gate for you guys, because it's more valuable to keep that army on the outside than to actually save 2 or 3 more Villagers here. And now ACCM is going full aggro mode here. CL now wants to click into Imperial. He has to use this TC to go into Imperial. And what is the TC that he's using? He's using this TC, which could be alright. Now wants another castle here. If he gets about 5-6 Camel Archers out here, he's gonna be able to hold against this one though. Stables are in danger. Barracks are in danger, but that's not really priority right now. I'm not sure if he has Husbandry. He definitely has Bloodlines, but Husbandry is a better question. And these Villagers, oh no, the Pathfinding! The Pathfinding for CL! Oh, that could have been another disaster. He's behind by 16 Villagers right now, and his Stone Mine looks extremely ugly. He wants another castle, by the way. I think that this castle kind of has to go somewhere around over here-ish. I think the best case scenario is that he can actually delete that mill and drop that castle over there, because that would secure this part of his base. He could get traps out. ACCM is going full on Castle Age here though. That's something to point out. So if CL is able to weather this storm, ACCM is going into Imperial actually faster than CL, surprisingly, as now CL is walling up the right side of his base. So the thing is that ACCM is going to be in Imperial as well, but what is his unit composition? So it's going to be Knights. But Knights don't translate to anything in Imperial. That's the problem that ACCM is facing. He will have to switch to heavy camos, but that takes a lot of time, and that's another castle over there from CL. Once again, a very ambitious castle that could have backfired really badly. Now he sees this army over here from CL, or for ACCM, so he knows that that army is over there and he could get that castle up, but it also means that his own army is on here on the left, and once again, he could be losing a lot on that castle, or ACCM could also lose a lot on his own castle here, which will go denied, and that's huge. It's going to be 2 castles against 1. The Knights are breaking in here though, and there is absolutely no defense for CL here, so he could be losing a lot of Villagers and now panicking, jumping into the TC, but the TC is full. All of these Villagers will once again start dying, and his eco is going to collapse now, expanding his eco towards this gold mines, tries a bit of a counter raiding, but I think his eco is going to collapse very, very fast over here, tries to get a couple of monks out on the field, but this is an army of 13 units, so even if you convert 1 or 2, it's not going to change a lot. Still, this castle is not going up for ACCM as we have double traps coming in here. Monks trying to get a couple of conversions, and they will. CL is down to 96 Villagers as he's running directly into the opponent's eco, expanding his own towards the neutral resources over here. Still, Camel Archer numbers are not really convincing. It's 4 Camel Archers only, and there is the Heavy Camel from ACCM, and Saracen Heavy Camel are actually pretty beastly, so that's something that is always worth keeping in mind. 30 Villagers lead for ACCM right now, but this castle is going to be downhills compared to this trap. I think this trap is going to be even level, but still, this castle is most likely history from ACCM here. He's very, very likely to lose that. But CL, in the meanwhile, is losing a lot of Villagers. Like, his eco is slowly collapsing behind this one. It's 91 Villagers, overall 100 pop against 150 population. So as good as it is for him to be able to just take that castle down, he's gonna be up against overwhelming amounts of heavy camos. Nice quick was from CL, by the way, walling out that ram to make sure that the traps aren't being taken down. And indeed, that castle is going down, but without Camel Archers, he like awful lot of Camel Archers. ACCM is just going to overrun him with heavy camos, and as I said, 03 is now actually giving you less HP, I think, and you also get 10 extra HP by default as a save bonus, so you already have 150 HP here for ACCM, who's diving into snipe the traps here, pushes in with the Rams as +4 defense kicks in. He's still using the market pretty heavily, and he now finds these Voyagers, and meanwhile, CL is just losing Voyager after Voyager. I think if I had to summarize why this game falls apart for CL, it's this number. ACCM killed 46 Voyagers, CL only killed 18. That opening to CL's base, I think, lost him the game. The fact that he opened the gate, like, the Knights could have actually gone through the gate themselves. To be honest, it was a pass side gate only, but it made it much easier for ACCM that villagers opened the gate. Basically, CL sacrificed half of his eco to save 3 villagers and 3 crossbows. If he just says, okay, I will sacrifice those, then maybe his eco would still be intact. He wouldn't have been beaten to Imperial by that much. He would have had a much cleaner time at getting his Camel Archer numbers up high. But now it is like Camel's running all the way around, and as I said, eventually ACCM will just send 1 Camel over here, which means CL will lose 5-6 more Villagers over there as well. And ACCM doesn't need to actually push this one anymore. Like, his opponent's eco has absolutely collapsed. It's 87 Villagers, 91 pop overall, and these Villagers are also dying. There is nowhere to go for CL. And for now, CL is holding this one, but as I said, he's right now pretty much cornered in here. He's up against a much better unit composition now, and this is why I said that Berbers need Camel Archers here. Otherwise, they will just get overrun by Saracen Camels. Now, the thing is that ACCM could just focus down this castle over here, which is under construction, to deal a little more damage to it. But CL, awful lot of Voyager time, 3 hours and 6 minutes Voyager idle time for CL, 155 for ACCM only. So another Voyager goes down from CL over here, and look at this, he's down to 70 Voyagers. This game is so over, and maybe one bad decision lost the game for CL. I'm not sure if the game could have gone differently, even if that gate is alive, but one thing is sure, when those Knights ran into the eco of CL, he lost like 20-25 Villagers, and that pretty much crippled his entire game plan. And now, I think Saracens do have Siege Ram, right? And one thing that Berbers struggle against big time is Siege Ram. CL will try to reboom into this one, getting a couple of pikemen out, but I mean, it's just a matter of time at this point, I believe. There is Capped Ram coming in, and they will start knocking on these walls. Look at CL's map control, he's got like none. CL is trying a comeback, but this is like near impossible. He's 99 pop against 166. His opponent has a far better eco. His opponent is also much more suited for the long-term gameplay, so he's got all the neutral resources that are controllable. He has the Saracen Market's power, so if he just needs to balance out his eco, it's going to be much better. There is no way that CL should be able to come back in this one. He's getting his Camel Archer numbers up high, but ACCM should have no trouble winning this one if he just goes for Camels and Siege Rams. Or even Capped Rams could be enough. CL is going for the Stone Walls, but it's 73 Villagers. Replenishing that army is going to be tough, and eventually ACCM could transition to Arbalest now. Because if it's only Camel Archers, Arbalest will beat that pretty easily, and that's going to be tough for ACCM or CL to deal with. Here come the Camels. Camel Archers are actually pretty decent against Camels, but these guys have 170 HP, and once again, just look at this. The Camel Archers have to run back and forth, and in the meanwhile, traps will be taken down, Voyagers will be taken down, and it's a steady 95 population for CL, whereas ACCM is almost pop-capped over here. Rams pushing in over here, and now Light Cav will start flooding in to do the eco of CL as well. There's just nowhere to go for CL right now, as Hussar raids will indeed probably finish off the game, but even if that doesn't finish off the game, there is the concern for CL that his opponent is sitting on all the neutral resources that are available on this map, and eventually it's just going to be Camel and Ram push over here. Rams already knocking through the walls, and there is Siege Ram indeed, and it looks like CL is going to tech into Champion, interestingly. Berber Champions are fully upgraded, but what Champions do not give you is mobility, so Hussar, Camels will just outrun you overall. And the Camel Archers will try stopping the Rams over here, but you know it's a bad sign when you're using Camel Archers to kill Rams, as ACCM will just divert his entire army over here. Honestly, he could just send this army on over here. Siege, I think he's waiting for Siege Ram, and then he will unleash that, but he could just let these Rams die but I think he's just trying to force a fight against those camel archers to finish off the game. It is a 3,000 score lead right now for our Vietnamese player. 102 population against the pop-capped player over here. This is going nowhere for CL. He's trying to come back, but this game is gone. And I understand why he's trying to come back. That's actually a nice choke point for him. But to be honest, that doesn't change the fact that he would get surrounded anyways. And the thing is that with camel archers, you have to kind of hit and run. So even if you kill camels here, you have to preserve your camel archer numbers. GG is scored by CL. ACCM takes game number 1. And as I said, for a long time in this game, it seemed like CL is going to be controlling this. But then what happened was this opening, and then CL just lost an awful lot of villagers. Like, that is just absolutely crazy. So, with that, we are gonna have game number 1 in the hands of ACCM. And we will be going back to the lobby to take a look at the civilizations. So, ACCM is going to lose Berbers over here. How do we do this so it looks nice? How do we do this? What we're gonna do is Mayans are sniped, so what I'm gonna do is do like this, so it's crossed out. And Berbers are also gone. Other side, Saracen are gone. And so are Vikings because of the snipe. So we're going to the first home map of CL over here, which can be either Gold Rush or Slopes. Alright, so if it is Gold Rush, then most likely we're going to see something like maybe Franks could be an idea there, or Tatars, I think is the plan. Khmer is a civilization that could be good for, I assume Slopes is the plan for Khmer. Okay, so feels good Portuguese being picked. Yeah, the Portuguese is actually one of the best water civs out there. Cheaper cavalry, but it's also more about the fact that they have a fairly versatile tech tree. So they have very, very decent cavalry play, very good archer play, but I feel like the reason why you see Portuguese here is because Italians are always banned on islands, and in this case, players just didn't bother picking them, which is a little bit of a surprise for me. But still, Portuguese is one of the better water civs out there. Extra HP, cheaper gold units. Feitorias could be a huge factor as well. So, with that, we are gonna have the next game coming up. So, I need to copy paste ACCM's name to find the lobby over here. So, they're setting up the next game right now, which is going to be on the home map of CL, as I said. By the way, I didn't know that ACCM actually climbed all the way up to the second place in the AoE rankings. Look at this. I'm just going to show this off. This is something I didn't know. Hera is number 1. He has just cracked 2600. Congrats to him for that. But ACCM is actually second place, 2500. Obviously, these are not always representing actual skill. because it also is heavily dependent on which time you play and what opponents are you getting. So ACCM, for example, is getting a lot of Huang games. So he's encountering Viper, for example, way less than, let's say, Hera does. Same thing for ACM encountering Hera, and so, but still, the fact that he's in the second place is actually pretty admirable for him. Anyways, we are gonna have another game over here for us. And it is not up yet, so we're gonna have to wait a couple of moments. That's the drawback of live games over here. Yeah, indeed, the good old days when Bhakti just defeated the ACCM. Yeah, I remember days as well when Bhakti was... I remember days when Bhakti was dominating everybody. Well, not everybody, but when Bhakti was easily one of the stronger competitors in tournaments, and he was like by far the best Vietnamese player. And now ACCM has taken over as the best Vietnamese player out there, so ACCM by far is now the best Vietnamese player, both in team games, I believe, and in 1v1s. He has had some very, very good performances. I think right now I'm putting ACCM into like the borderline top 10 category for myself. So it is debatable if he's actually... if he's actually able to crack the top 10 right now in terms of tournament performances, but his recent accomplishments were actually pretty outstanding. So really, he's at least within consideration of being a top 10 player. In fact, if we go back to his history, for example, he was a semi-finalist in Red Bull Volo 3 and lost to Doubt, who ultimately ended up winning the entire tournament. So ACCM upsetting Winchester there in Red Bull Volo. He has been having some very, very good tournament performances. 2v2 World Cup, they barely lost to Brazil in the quarterfinals. And other than that, what else did he have? Lords of the Arena quarterfinal, so he has been playing in small tournaments as well, but I feel like his biggest accomplishment in recent memory is semifinals in Red Bull Volo 3. When is Nico versus Fire scheduled? There is no info on the Wikipedia. It is not scheduled yet as far as I know. So I think 1 or 2 series isn't scheduled yet, but that is likely to be played on Monday, if I had to predict. So they will be spread out during the weekend. That's something that I wanted to say, that the games will be spread out all across the weekend so that there is minimal overlaps, so to say, between the games, just to make sure that it is a little bit more convenient for casters. So that's basically it. All right. So with that, we'll be jumping into the next game over here. So give me a moment to look it up and we will get going. So why can't I see the game? Game, please let me spectate. Okay, here it is, Gold Rush we're going to. My biggest doubt at the moment is where does Taro rank at the moment. Yeah, Taro is one of the biggest questions right now, I think, and Hidden Cup is going to answer a lot of questions about Taro, I believe, over here. If he has actually... I don't think Taro has taken a step back, it's more about his opponents are taking a step ahead. Same thing with, for example, Fire. It's not like he has become worse, it's about the competition becoming better, and he wasn't able to improve as much as the opponents were. Anyways, we're going to have ACCM as blue Aztecs here on the left. Right side will be Franks for CL in red. So as I said, Franks is actually a likely civilization for this map, and one of the reasons why is because you do have a castle that is relatively cheap. Franks can actually play with that and secure the middle very easily for themselves. That's probably the core concept of picking Franks on this map. Now, the tricky thing is gonna be, what could CL do against an aggressive play from ACCM, like potentially early Monks or so? Still, if it isn't Monks, Aztecs will have a tough time in like mid to late Castle Age against a Knights play from the Frankish guy, and it looks like we had a little bit of a Scout scuffle here. And because the Eagle lost HP, I think CL Scout is able to finish off ACCM Scout, and This hurts a lot for ACCM. This hurts an awful lot. So he has just lost his scout, and if you take a look at his scouting information, it is very, very little. That's not ACCM's POV. This is ACCM's POV. It's very little scouting information. He has no idea where the opponent's gold mines are at. He has little scouting information in the middle as well. I think he's trying to polycide scan a wolf here, but as I said, this is not working with the new patch anymore. One thing that you could do, though, is kind of make you remind yourself where the wolves are for future. So you could drop this polycide over here to know that, hey, there's a patch of wolves over here. Anyways, we're gonna have some early wolves here from CL. I wonder if this is going to be a fast castle play from him. The dangerous thing for ACCM right now, as he's going for what seems to be a Drush and probably a Drush FC, basically. So at the end of the day, what ACCM is going to have trouble with is that he has no idea if his opponent is coming forward. And the thing is that CL is, as I said, one of the more aggressive Chinese players. He's not shying away from coming forward with towers. And especially with a gold mine and stone mine like that, a tower here from CL would deny this wood line, would deny the gold and stone over here. So the thing is that losing that scout hurts really badly for ACCM because he has no idea if his opponent is coming forward. Now, looking at ACCM's base, his stone mine isn't really great on the left, but it's workable. This gold mine is really bad. It's front, it's hard to wall, and so is this gold mine. So ACCM has a pretty bad map over here, something that could easily be punished by towers, but it seems like CL is just going to be playing standard fast castle over here, has a lot of villagers queued up in this one, whereas ACCM will probably play, is he playing Wolf Rush here? Because he hasn't started making militias. No, it's actually going to be men-at-arms from him. I'm not sure if he just adapted this build order, because that barracks is a little too early for men-at-arms, but it is going to be men-at-arms play from him. And in the meanwhile, we're going to have a fast castle from CL with an absolutely ugly gold mine placement. That's an absolutely awful mining camp. So you don't want it to touch the gold, because you are not blocking the surface of 2 tiles here. And there's also going to be a lot of villager bumping here in the corner, so that's a very, very bad mining camp spot for CL. In the meanwhile, CL will be fully walled, and indeed he's playing fast castle. In fact, he's doing a 25+2 fast castle, although it might just be 25+1 loom, so he might end up with 26 villagers after all. It is ambitious that he's doing this without loom, because it's not like, you know, this map is impossible to be played with the Maritime Stars, for example. And indeed, this is a straight fast castle in a map that is other than Arena, to be precise. That's the tricky thing here, as we have barracks coming in here from CL. But here's the deal. These men-at-arms, or they will be men-at-arms eventually by ACCM, if ACCM pulls the villagers and he's relatively close to his opponent, he could actually tower his opponent to hell here, and that would be a disaster for CL. CL has some idea where his opponent is at, and it seems like I missed the scout getting killed by the TC. I think those are the remains of the red scout that died over here, so both players have lost their scout. And here come the men-at-arms. These are still Dark Age walls, so it's extremely easy to get through them. And if ACCM has Archer or potentially Tower support to this one, there could be a massive problems here for CL. That being said, if these guys don't get through the walls, then eventually CL is going to be able to go for knights and just overrun his opponent with those. So walls are slowly going down over here. Blacksmith is going to be used to revol, and here come the archers. Food count is looking pretty decent, I would say, for CL, and indeed he is going for a 25+1 loom type of strategy over here, which is sort of understandable in his situation. Wants to make sure. I think that was the original plan as well, and I am completely fine with that too. But especially now that he's seeing the man-at-arms, he kind of has to play this one with loom in case those guys get inside, because if he is playing this one without loom, then that's going to be an absolute massacre, sort of. Alright, so Market is even coming up here for CL, so I wonder what he's playing. He's got a stable, and he could get a couple of knights here. The thing is that normally Aztecs don't have trouble with the early knights. The troublesome part that comes in right now for ACCM, First of all is that his villagers are derping out and he's unable to stonewall. But more importantly, as I said, the troublesome part that is coming in here for ACCM is that he's gonna be very, very far from Castle Age. And that means that he's gonna be up against a couple of knights very, very soon over here. The man-at-arms are almost through the walls and this is open! CL! This will be the biggest throw I've seen for a long time. Oh, you had one job. Okay, he's actually able to vote this one in, but this was closer than what it should have been. It's really like the you had one job scenario. All you had to do is just drop those stone walls. And now he's gonna be forced to re-wall because that wall isn't super strong in particular. And now the man-at-arms are getting through. He's almost up to Castle Age, but he still needs a little more time until he can get a knight out. If he gets 2 knights out, he can clean this one up. So it's a matter of, can these units get into his base before the knights arrive? If they do, it's game over and ACCM wins. If they can't, it could be very, very close to game over and CL wins. Man-at-arms still bashing their way through the walls. It actually hurts for ACCM that his third man-at-arms isn't actually attacking over here, because he could have destroyed that house a little faster. They are in, and they will camp the bottom of that tower. I feel like CL is in huge trouble here. He played this one greedily, and now there is no motivation from ACCM to move away from here. He's just knocking down that tower, and look at CL. He's forced to buy 200 stone with all the gold that he has had. The tower is gonna go up, sure, but at the end of the day, at this point, ACCM will just commit to this and say, okay, whatever, I'm gonna take whatever I can, kill a couple of villagers. This is already absolute carnage, and yeah, eventually CL is gonna be up to Castle Age, and ACCM is still in feudal. But ACCM can still make a couple of spears over here, and it's not like ACCM is very, very far away from Castle Age. That being said, the thing is that now knights will be arriving here for CL. He's gonna have to use some massive market abuse over here to be able to sustain that production. And he's idling his TC a lot over here. Only has 5 villagers on food, 3 of them on farms, 2 on berries. But the idea is that CL will be having knights on the field. ACCM, I think indeed he's selling stone. He knows that he needs to get up to Castle Age here fast. So this is why he's selling at least 100 stone. Wouldn't be surprised to see him selling his other 100 stone and buying a bit of a food over here, because the faster he gets to Castle Age, the better. So we are gonna have knights cleaning up the archers and man-at-arms over here. ACM is doing the right thing. Make spearmen. If you're up against early knights, make a couple of spearmen. That's going to be able to hold this one for a moment. But there's the forward monastery already from CL to convert the knights back. And ACCM still needs 2.5 minutes to get into Castle Age, and that's a lot of time. Especially if he's making eagles that just die to knights. I don't know why he's making eagles. Maybe he's trying to snipe siege weapons. But here, if CL presses on, especially if he finds a mangonel shot over here, for example, that could be very, very troublesome for ACCM. Remember, ACCM doesn't have a safe gold. So, if there's a siege workshop coming in here, and here that comes from CL, he might be able to push ACCM off from his gold, in fact, all available gold. And that would be a disaster for ACCM. Are we seeing a comeback here? Because there's actual comeback potential to this one. Now, there is going to be a second barracks as well for ACCM, so I think he's going to try defending with 4 spears, maybe even pikemen. But the thing is that Franks are actually pretty decent at dealing with a pikeman switch. When it comes to, you know, being able to drop a cheap castle and going for throwing X-Men. Let's see if that monk actually tries to convert that archer. Indeed, ACCM needs to be careful. The archer gets converted. This hurts so much for ACCM. I mean, it's just one archer, but it's so annoying. And now you can snipe off one of the spearmen. And that's already an achievement. You can pick off 1 spearman. And that's, once again, lowering the amount of units that you will have to encounter. And a scorpion comes in here first. You could have really made a case for mangonel, to be honest, in this scenario. And, well. The gold mine for ACCM is now gone. The other gold mine is inaccessible. And obviously he's gonna have a villager lead by about 3 or 4. In fact, it's going to be more because his opponent is also idling his TC a lot. But even a villager has actually been converted, and Sia has dropped the house foundation here to block the access of ACCM to the gold mine. That was intentional, and now ACCM doesn't actually have gold available. So yeah, congratulations, you're gonna have monks, but you don't have gold. Now, CL doesn't have scouting on this gold mine, so it doesn't know where the other gold mine is at, and If he didn't lose his scout in feudal, he would be aware of that, and he would already be moving that direction. And that could be life-saving for ACCM, that he can access the other gold mine, because right now his opponent is playing for gold mine denial. We're going to have Eagles coming in here for ACCM, but Eagles will just be absolutely destroyed by Knights. The tricky thing is that it's not like Sia has a lot of Knights or they're well upgraded. In fact, these guys have 0 upgrades on them. Also worth noting that the only eco upgrades that Sia has gotten are the ones that are free for him with his civilization. Still, that barracks could go down really fast, and this is getting concerning for ACCM, because here is one monk. One knight gets converted really fast over here. Nice move from ACCM jumping back into the TC. But as I said, there is monks supporting here for CL, so he can convert them back. And also, it is worth noting that he's mangoing down this barracks downhill, so this is taking a lot of damage. Mangonel is out for ACCM, as he's only on 1 monastery right now. CL is going full aggression over here, as he's trying to convert the knight back. Over here, Mangonel pops out. This Mangonel is going to be history in a moment. And CL also gets his knights back with the conversion. Now another knight is dispatched to destroy that monk, and oh, that's a disaster for ACCM. Loses the monk over here as well. That was an excellent fight for CL, and now ACCM is trying to break out with the Egos. Loses 1-2 conversion, loses no more, but he is going to lose his pikemen, and he's going to lose his entire army over here. And ACCM is going to be down to 4 military, and the thing is that there is going to be more Mangonels coming from CL now, and the ranges are going down, and it's going to be harder and harder for ACCM to counterattack this one. He's going to have to go full monk defense. Behind this one, CL's eco isn't shining. In fact, it's everything but good. It's 4 on food only for him. So he's going full aggro mode on this one. Mangonel tries to take a shot on the monk. Monk still without a single upgrade here for ACCM. And now the TC is going to be the next target. There's defensive Mangonel from ACCM, so he might be able to still hold this one. But now, those Eagle Scouts from CL will just run past the monasteries. The reason why you do this with your Eagle Scouts is because it's much harder to convert them by ACCM. Whereas if you just run with Knights, the Knights might actually get converted. Scorpion will actually find the Vodam here. Another Eagle Scout gets converted, but still, Sia has no idea about the gold mine. Soon, however, he will find out, because he sees everything over here, as that's a 1-for-1 Mangonel trade. But what he doesn't know about, that's a very, very fast conversion over there, and we are gonna have a no counter conversion coming in here. So he sees the stone, and I think CL is looking for the other gold mine here. Knight's trying to snipe the monk over there that does have Sanctity now, which means that it is a 50 HP monk. There's only one Mangonel shelling that TC, and the thing is that now CL is still behind by 12 Vultures, but he's the one putting up the pressure on the opponent. This is a very, very tricky situation. ACCM, I think, is in the need of a defensive castle, and he's going for all the stone over there. Still, the problem that CL is facing is that he has no idea about this gold mine. If he knew about this, he would send 2 knights here, and ACCM would not have access to gold. I think the lack of information for CL here hurts really badly. There is no redemption right now for ACCM, so he can't actually hold those Mangonels off with his monks. It's a rather big Mangonel shot over here, and that's a nice one from ACCM. And that's indeed a 1-for-0, and then it's gonna be ending up being a 1-for-1. There is a Knight and an Eagle counter-attacking from ACCM, but that barely is doing anything. It is worth, however, noting that even though CL is behind by 12 Vultures, his opponent has 5 on food now, so soon ACCM is gonna have a lot of TC time as well. I think the main problem that CL is facing, as Marco Marchetti is raiding with 9 viewers, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome to the viewers of your stream. So, here's the deal. The main problem that I'm having is that CL's eco is just going nowhere. So it's not like he's actually pulling ahead based on the fact that he's able to push his opponent. On the other hand, it is worth noting that ACCM's food eco is also sort of collapsing, so to say. So he's gonna have a lot of TC time here as well. Now the push sort of stalls out over here, as we have a couple of scouts here from CL trying to snipe monks. If they were light cav, I would believe in them, but that's a lot of monks with 50 HP. So it is going to be extremely hard. CL 1 on food only, and he also got counterattack, and this is the important piece of information here. If he finds this gold mine, then that could be 5-6 Voyagers dead for CL. CL could fight this knight with the Voyagers, to be honest, but it is a matter of, is he going to be able to react to that, because he's too busy microing this. And now there is Fervor coming in for ACCM. It is 49 against 6, but more importantly 52 eco against 34. As I said, I feel like the main concern for CL here was that he had absolutely no follow-up to his aggressive play. Like, he tried playing aggressive, that's fine, but if you are falling behind in eco by yourself, and this is the thing that should have happened a long time ago for CL. It's very unlucky that he didn't find this gold mine in time, partially contributed by the fact that he lost his scout in feudal. But if he found that gold mine earlier, this would have happened 5 minutes earlier, and this push wouldn't have stalled out, because if you kill those Voyagers on the gold, there wouldn't have been any monks coming in for ACCM. That being said, ACCM's eco is also extremely inefficient, so yeah, he has the eco lead by 15, but it is a massive amount of idle time on those wheels with no access to gold, and Aztecs without gold are pretty bad overall. So I think what ACCM kind of needs to do is try to sneak a TC out here. If he gets a TC out there and access to gold, I think this is game over for CL, and ACCM will be taking over to 0 in that case. So really, for CL, he either needed to find this gold mine or just have some sort of follow-up to his Castle Age push, because his eco was so weak behind this one. And every 25 seconds your town center is idle, you lose one Voyager, basically. So if you compare the two players, 8 minutes AC idle time difference is basically worth 16 Voyagers. Which means that if you don't kill 16 Voyagers while you idle your TC, and he obviously didn't, he killed an overall value or overall number of 8, then you will just fall behind Nico. So basically, the 16 Voyagers difference that you see over here comes from the fact that CL put everything he had into that push, and his eco just pretty much collapsed. Now, it could have been completely different if CL didn't fail with these stone walls, and he actually failed with those stone walls. He could have gotten those up a little earlier, and then the men-at-arms and the archers don't break in there. One of the reasons why he was set back so much is because the men-at-arms and archers broke into his base and picked off like 4 or 5 Voyagers, forced multiple defensive towers. So that was basically the main reason why he collapsed, and indeed, the next map is also the home map of ACCM. It is always like that. It is always the losing player's home map, which means that we are going for slopes. So we have seen a closed map, or sort of closed map over here. Gold Rush can be considered a rather closed map overall. Whereas on the other side, I didn't update the score over here, but it's already 2-0 for ACCM. So ACCM is leading 2-0 over here. We're going to the final home map of CL over here. And it's Seed 1 versus Seed 32. But I thought that CL's aggression is actually going to be a little more effective, let's say. Anyways, we will cross out Franks for CL. And we will cross out Aztecs for ACCM. I think CL is going to pick either Khmer or Magyars for slopes. Other maps are Bay and Island. I would think that on Island, whatever happens, CL is going to land now with the saves that he has left. Could be a Khmer landing, for example, on Islands. That's something that you could think about. Even before Khmer were buffed in Definitive Edition, the Khmer were used sometimes in team game tournaments as a landing civilization because you didn't need the prerequisite buildings, so you could land with a stable immediately without the need of making a barracks. That's actually pretty helpful. So Khmer is actually a pretty nice landing civ. Malians could also be something to consider for islands. There is still Tatars, there is still Magyars, there is still Khmer. I feel like Magyars or Khmer are probably best suited for this map though. So we should see, I think, Magyars from CL versus what is most likely not Portuguese, probably Persians will go for Bay. Portuguese will go for islands, so it is probably Indians or Mongols, and I think it's Mongols here. It has to be Mongols, because Indians are not as strong as Mongols on this map anymore. The extra hunt helps you a lot with Mongols, and the thing is that Indian short fishing bonus is nice, but your late game composition is much, much better with Mongols. But who am I to tell? It's actually going to be Indians versus Magyars over here. Now, Indians is a bit of a counter pick to Magyars because what Magyars are building upon is an early Castle Age power spike with Knights, for example. Obviously, early Feudal power spike with Scouts is also something to consider. And in fact, in the beginning of Feudal Age in the Scouts War, there is going to be a considerable advantage for the Magyars over here with the extra attack and cheaper Scouts. In early Castle Age, the two players will be relatively the same though, because those +2 Knights are scary, but at the end of the day, the Camels will just melt them. So the Magyars might need to go for massive amounts of Cav Archers, but that's a tricky transition here. And the thing is that Magyars Cav Archers will only be better than Indian Cav Archers once you get Recurve Bow. So technically, in Castle Age, Cav Archers for the two civs are absolutely even. Indians do get a nice little buff from the cheaper Voyagers that they are having. And if you're playing this as Indians, I think what you have to do is go for the pawns very early on, because you want to squeeze in a much faster feudal than your opponent. The Magyar player here is most likely going to do 20 pop at best. So what you want is 19 or potentially 18 pop feudal with the Indians, because you have to compensate the quality of your scouts, so the lack of forging, with the quantity. So you have to have more scouts than your opponent, and you achieve that by going for faster feudal, supplemented by the shore fishing of Indians. And that indeed is the case from ACCM. He's gonna drop the mill over here, and this is actually a pre-lumber camp mill, just like he's supposed to be doing this. So I think ACCM is doing the right thing in this scenario. For CL, we'll see if he's even moving out, because he doesn't necessarily have to move out to the shorefish, but if he's not really doing that, he's going to fall behind an eco so much, because Magyars don't have an eco bonus. So if you just go standard berries and standard Arabia-esque play, then you're gonna fall behind really bad compared to the Indian player. Look at all the food that the Indian guy is getting over here from this one. It's going to be this pond consumed, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see ACCM trying to get the other pond as well for himself early on, for maximizing his food income from shorefish. Anyways, we are gonna have houses on the front now. Interesting is the fact that ACM still hasn't dropped the lumber camp, but yeah, he needs one more house, and he was gonna drop the lumber camp after. So what you do in this case is go for a mill first, but that means that you can't afford a lumber camp, so you're gonna have to take the straggler trees first, and CL almost running into the TC fire once again, which is definitely something that you want to avoid in a map where it could potentially turn into Scout Wars, because Scout numbers early on will be extremely important. And it seems like indeed CL will be playing with just standard berries. That means that his eco is going to be pretty much set back compared to his opponent, and even 20 pop scouts is going to be a little bit tough for him to squeeze in. Now, this is actually a debatable mill spot. A lot of players like to drop it closer to the berries. I actually like it, because what this gives you is a very, very short travel path for the Vultures in between the mill and the berries, and it also is decreasing Vulture pumping. If you would put it right against the berries, then you would have the Villagers picking the sides of the berries, and they would bump into each other. So some players like to do it this way. I myself like this one as well. Obviously, this is going to be a little more inefficient for these two berry bushes, but the first four are extremely efficient, and that I think helps a little bit, especially with the pathfinding issues. It is very helpful that you have less Vulture bumping. Anyways, we're gonna have Pulside Walls coming in here from CL on the front of his base, and ACCM, as I said, 19 pop is the latest that he can go up, and I think this Voyager will eventually be dropping a Brax on the front whenever he can afford it, and this should be 19 pop. It's 20 pop. That's a little too late for my taste with Indians here. So he could have gone for 19 pop, I believe, and I think you have to. Otherwise, if your uptime is the same as the Magyars guy, then the Magyar guy is just going to overrun you with better and cheaper scouts. Here's the Brax coming in, which is actually pronounced Barracks, as YouTube comment section has pointed out to me. So 20 pop versus what is, I think, going to be 21 pop here. No major surprise about that. As I said, Magyars don't have an eco bonus, so 20 pop without Deer Push isn't really something that you can squeeze in, unless you have like a very, very little Vulture idle time in terms of like traveling for the boars whatsoever. But anyways, here is a slightly faster Fuel H from ACCM, and he will be playing with archers. In this case, I understand that the 20 pop build, and 20 pop archers, it might even be men-at-arms. Yeah, it's men-at-arms. So 20 pop men-at-arms is actually pretty fast, and that kind of is understandable now, because 20 pop scouts is something that I would have disliked for ACCM, but 20 pop men-at-arms is something that I really like here. So it seems like CL wants to play scouts over here, and I think that ACCM knows that. The thing is that if you play men-at-arms against scouts, though, you have to be walled at home, otherwise the scouts will just outrun you. And remember that Magyar scouts kill villagers much faster. For a standard scout in Feudal, it takes 10 hits to kill a villager. For Magyar scout, it only takes 8. So Magyar scouts are really, really good at raiding, especially early on. I think one of the biggest boosts that you're getting from the Magyar scout is that the first 3 scouts that you're gonna have is much more devastating than the upcoming ones. Feudal Age is gonna kick in earlier here for ACCM, which means that he can intercept that scout. That's actually very valuable because, as I said, the first 3 scouts for Magyars are actually pretty important. CL tries to take the best engagement he can with the hill, but that's not going to happen either. And these are still Dark Age walls for the time being, so ACCM will try bashing his way through those, or just try walking all the way around. When to push deer and why? That's a complicated thing. I think the answer for that is whenever possible, but it is debatable, and in many cases it is completely player dependent. Some players love to push deer, some players prioritize scouting the opponent instead. There is a lot of things to that. So for example, if you're drushing, you probably want your scout with your militias, and that means that you aren't really pushing in that many deer. Basically, the time where you almost always have to push in deer is fast castle build. So for example, arena, you push in all your deer. It doesn't matter as long as you finish them by the time you pick up to castle age. So for example, I'm playing also with a couple of people in like arena team games, for example, and some like to open the game by pushing in the deer, because they say, okay, I want to push in the deer and then want to scout. I myself scout first and push in the deer later, and neither of those are actually something that is wrong or right. It is heavily personal preference based. Also depends on your civilization. So for example, with Mongols, you probably want to push in your deer a lot earlier. Ideally, like some people push in their deer when they also have the boar under their TC, and they will just go full on hunt. Some people like to wait with their boar until they have finished up their deer that they have pushed in. So there isn't really a clear answer to when it's actually worth pushing deer. Anyways, what we have a clear answer for is that, as I said, if you play men-at-arms versus scouts, you kind of have to be able to defend your base against the faster scouts over here. And if CL didn't lose his scout over here, he would have 3, and that would be a lot more devastating. For now, a defensive spearman on the wood line is going to be just enough, and you have a men-at-arms opening over here on the front. And remember that scouts are actually pretty bad dealing with the men-at-arms. They're not awful at doing that, but especially if there's a spearman coming here as well, this is going to be a disaster for CL. Because the men-at-arms and the spearmen will be getting through the walls pretty easily. Archers will deny second layering. And the thing is that those scouts aren't really doing much, even though they could intercept a couple of villagers here. The thing is that it's only 3 scouts, and there is a defensive spearman out there for ACCM, so I think he could actually take a good enough engagement. I think ACCM thought that this is open here with the berries, but it's actually not. So I think what ACCM should do in this, indeed, is this one. Take down the stable. Because your opponent is not going to be able to really stop that. And you don't really want Magyars to go for scouts here. Now, this could be dangerous for ACCM. There is 2 spearmen. 2 spearmen should be enough here, even against Magyar scouts with +1 attack. Here they come, and indeed, 2 spearmen. They have to focus down 1 scout, though 1 spearman went down, and ACCM might need to pull another spearman over here. This could be tricky. He's going to damage the scouts, and that's actually a pretty decent value for CL over here. Because, as I said, the fact that you only need 8 hits on a villager compared to 10 hits is actually pretty huge when it comes to killing villagers, and ACCM is the first player to lose villagers in this game, namely 3 villagers in this engagement, tries to quick wall 1, and he will fail to do so. So it's -3 wills for ACCM over here, but the stable is going down really rapidly, and you see that Sia has to re-wall layer after layer, trying to go for a couple of skirms, but the thing is that the man-at-arms are soaking up so much skirmisher fire that it's still going to be pretty tough. Over here, the scouts have been cleaned up, And we also have to keep in mind that yes, ACCM lost 3 Vultures, but CL had 1 minute extra idle time, which means -2 Vultures for CL. And at the end of the day, CL only has 1.5-ish Vultures lead, lost his stable, which means that now ACCM could also make his own skirms, because there is a very, very little chance that CL has another stable right now to make scouts. This also means that ACCM probably knows that there's going to be no more scouts coming towards his base, so he's still playing semi-open. In fact, he's going out for the hunt and the shorefish once again, knowing that his opponent is probably switching into archers and skirmishers. Right now, it is 13 army against 5. Voyager counts are pretty close, but we also have to keep in mind, as I said, that ACCM will have access to hunt, ACCM will have access to shorefish, and that's something that shouldn't be underestimated either. So, men-at-arms knocking through these houses right now. They're not really doing that much of a damage to CL's eco, but they're forcing CL to defend, and I think that's already enough for ACCM, because what he wants to capitalize on is this hunt and the shorefish over here, making sure that that is untouched and he's able to take it. And I think that's already enough for him. Also, he's got cheaper villagers with the Indians. So if you combine the two, that means that he's going to have a much more efficient eco in the long run than his opponent does. Also, CL once again is dropping a lot of farms without horse color. This is something that we have seen in the first game as well. And that is going to impact your eco in early Castle Age. Because the thing is that by the time these farms run out, it's going to be early Castle Age. And instead of making town centers, you will be making farms. And that's not ideal. So that's why you prioritize horse color pretty early on. Now the thing is that for Magyars it's a little bit tricky because, as I said, you don't have a good Dark Age eco bonus, which means that in fact you don't have any good eco bonus overall, which means that it's pretty tough to really squeeze in everything like scouts, double bit axe, horse color, and it seems like ACCM is going to tap out of this one. The thing is that he could have tried getting through these walls over here, but he might be sensing their counterattack is coming his way, and 4 Voyagers could once again buy the dust pit, which could be pretty devastating for ACCM. I don't think that he's expecting this counterattack over here, and CL's first game where he's actually sort of taking the lead now, because that's 4 Voyagers dead. Or at least 3 of them, but I don't think they can actually get back home here. 1 goes down. If you're ACCM, you want to drop off the food from those Voyagers first, honestly. Because you will lose them anyways, might as well drop off the food that they're holding. Now here come the archers. It seems like he will be able to save too, but still, heal advantage was on the side of CL over here. It is +1 defense from ACCM, no +1 defense for CL, which at the end of the day means that CL is probably going to lose this fight, but he has once again killed a lot of Voyagers. The problem is that, oh boy, while that happened, he's letting the men-at-arms and archers into his base, and as I said, there's extra armor on those archers, and this is actually smart from ACCM. He's splitting up his archers from the men-at-arms, so the men-at-arms can start doing damage, because they're useless against the archers right now, and what ACCM could do is, for example, hit that gold one with the men-at-arms. Right now they're just staring down the body of the dead woman over there, but eventually ACCM gets cleaned up over here, but if he can get a couple Voyager kills, like he already killed 1, he could have killed a lot more with these men-at-arms, by the way. He only kills 2, maybe gets his 3rd one before they're actually cleaned up. But ACCM actually has the Voyager lead with Wheelbarrow. One of the reasons why is because CL has a lot of TC idle time. I think this is just a macro issue and not a food issue. Like, he's got a lot of TC idle time. And it seems like ACCM's superior macro is starting to pay off, because even though ACCM lost 5 Voyagers and only killed 2, at the end of the day, he is leading in terms of Voyager count by, well, about half a Voyager. Not really the end of the world for either player. But ACCM is going to have a slightly better Castle Age timing, and now the question is if you're going to see Cav Archers, eventually it's going to be crossbows into Cav Archers from ACCM, I believe. Like 12 crossbows easily justify a crossbowman upgrade first, but then it seems like we'll probably see just Cav Archers, so no camos. That's actually a little bit dangerous, because if the Magyars player goes back to Knights, the early Magyar Knights, even with +1 defense, the +2 attack helps a lot, so +2, +1 Knights already do a lot of damage to crossbows over here. And it seems like CL believes that his opponent could be out here, tries to go for a push on this pawn, but this is far gone. And it seems like ACCM has given up on hunting now that he has been threatened there twice by his opponent. And now ACCM will try to break into the base of CL. I think there might be a single tile of palisade wall here, which isn't reinforced by a house. so that could be something. And it looks like we're gonna have a third range coming in here. This is a little bit overly ambitious from CL. Once again, one stable 3 ranges, I don't think that you can sustain production on all of those unless you idle your TC a lot, but once again, you don't want to idle your TC that much. Anyways, ACCM, he probably spotted the archers coming from this way using the mill, so he's going to react to that one in time. And he's going to dispatch a couple of archers to clean that up. In the meanwhile, he will spot the stable, so he knows that a couple of knights will most likely be coming his way, even though there is no bloodlines from CL, so that's not going to be great knights. In fact, this might just be for husbandry, and then we are going to see cav archers from CL. He's not even upgrading his... well, he's still in fuel, so obviously he's not going to be upgrading his archers to crossbows right now, but I think by the time he reaches Castle Age, he's going to be down to 4 or 5 archers. Crossbows will kick in a moment for ACCM, so the thing is that there is no point for CL to upgrade those archers anymore, and he has to go for straight cav archers here. So crossbows are in, ACCM already has Botkin, and indeed he's going to pick those guys off, even fighting up hills. And crossbows already in as well. CL's gold mine getting pressured pretty heavily, and while he's busy microing these units over here, ACCM is hitting this gold mine. I think ACCM is also hitting the back of the base with one skirmisher that's not really doing anything, but still, off from the gold is CL, and now here come the cav archers. But the problem is that early on the cav archers aren't really going to be amazing against these crossbows, and ACCM can do the same cav archers over here. Magyar cav archers are great, but the thing is that crossbows, you already have a good number of those for ACCM, so he can already start pushing into the opponent's base here. Obviously, in the long run, cav archers will be a better unit, but the problem is that as long as you're not getting the Magyar unique upgrade, the recurve bow, which is an Imperial Age upgrade, by the way, I think, yeah, Corvinian army has to be the Castle Age upgrade, and recurve bow is the imp upgrade for the cav archers. Which means that if that is something that... we have a little bit of a lag over here. Hello. Why are we lagging? I don't think it's coming from my side. It could be just the game acting a little bit wacky. So the thing is that without recurve bow, those cav archers are going to be just pretty much the same as Indians can make. Indians can also mix in a couple of camels, which could be pretty decent at just dealing damage to the archers. And oh, look at that! Oh, that's smart from ACM. He actually pulled a camel to draw away the cav archers, and he just ran past the TC, and that's huge. He knows that the cav archers will be better in the long run. What he wants to capitalize on is that he currently has the better army. With skirms, with crossbows, even though CL is doing a nice job cleaning this one up, but it is much harder for CL to replace the cav archers than it is for ACM to replace the crossbows. And indeed, it's a cleanup, and if this is not a full cleanup here from CL, then these crossbows will start marching towards the wood line, and ACCM's gamble here seems to pay off because those crossbows are inside the eco, and CL taps out ACCM, free zeroing his opponent over here, because indeed this was over. Like, at this point it's free arm against 23, and these crossbows will just kill these vultures, and it's not like CL has anywhere to go. There's already crossbows coming up here. ACM will be on 2 TCs as well, but I feel like CL had to clean this one up. Nice move from ACCM to bait the cav archers this way. If the cav archers kept staying under the TC, these crossbows wouldn't have been able to run past. But what he did was bring a couple of crossbows and camels here to push this side and make CL move his cav archers to the right for a brief moment to clean this up. CL didn't really want to go here, but for like half a second he decided, okay, I'm gonna clean this one up. But that was the time that ACCM took to just run past the TC and then take the fight over here. Because CL wasn't willing to take the fight over here, obviously, but CL had to take the fight here. So ACCM forced the fight by distracting the army of CL over here on the right side and then running past the TC to take a much more advantageous position for him to fight at. And while over here, CL wasn't forced to fight, here CL was forced to fight, and you could see that CL was probably hoping to wait a little more for his upgrades, for his numbers, but he wasn't given time by ACCM. Nice move over there, and ACCM, seed number 1, gets into the final round of the Hidden Cup for qualifiers. A pretty clean victory for him so far, kind of justifying why he was seed number 1 over here. CL tried it, but as I said, CL is more of a team game player, and it seems like in 1v1, the experience that ACCM has over CL in the many 1v1 games that ACCM has played compared to CL playing a little less in 1v1 starts to show, and ACCM will be one of the good candidates to get into the main event of Hidden Cup 4.